people like to do work or do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so they get to know you and like you. It's going to be a lot easier to do business. We are humans. We are social beings. We want to have people around us that actually care about us. So take the time to learn what people are passionate about, whether it's their kids, even what they're just looking forward to for the weekend. And maybe it's just time to relax and do nothing. Your PDP objectives, personal development plan objectives, need to be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Mentorship does not have to be formal, though. I would say it does help to be formal in the sense that you meet with them on a regular basis. It does not have to be, and I will say shouldn't be as regular as you meet with your manager.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Faronbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where we learn how to become the most incredible versions of ourselves by learning from each other. So first off, I want to say congrats, Grad. Congratulations to all the graduates out there. I know what the time this episode is being aired, it's either like past college graduations, because I know some people graduate the first weekend of May, some graduate towards the end of May, or high school graduation. Because all I do and my goal is to empower young professionals in STEM to become the most incredible versions of themselves. And I am purposely a little bit vague with young professionals because young professionals can mean someone that is 18, just out of high school, or someone maybe even in their 30s or 40s. If you really see yourself as younger, newer into being a professional and striving to get better, this podcast is for you. What I do is for you, because I realize there's a lot of stuff you may or may not know as you transition into new careers, new things that you're trying to do. So congratulations. Either you've gone out of high school and you're going to start working, or about to enter college, or you graduate college, you're about to start working as a professional. You did it. It was hard, especially in STEM. It was hard, but you got through it. And I know that this next step is going to be even better. Now you're making money. You can do some things that maybe you weren't able to do before. But really, congratulations. Take some time, if you can, to take a break without working. I know some people don't have that luxury, but if you do have any sort of time to take a break and not work between when you graduate and when you start working full time, definitely take advantage of that. So in this episode, I definitely want to share some tips for as you transition into your professional career. And I would say this could work either if you're transitioning into your first time professional role, or if you are going into a new company or even a new role and like transitioning somewhere else. But really, it's to help with the transition process where there's new people, new processes, new things you're learning. But before I even jump into that, I want to tell a story about my first experiences in college coming into General Mills. So go back to after I graduated in 2016, started working for General Mills in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was a lot. I grew up in the Midwest, lived in the Midwest my entire life, besides for when I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. So I say I'm Paul Faronbi, actually, Ibuku Olua Faronbi. Ibuku Olua mean blessing of the Lord. But I would say that growing up, born in Nigeria, came to the United States when I was 4, St. Louis until I was 15, high school in Nebraska, most of high school in Nebraska, college in Iowa, heavily Midwest. So transitioning from Midwest for really the last, call it 14 years of my life, or not even that, more than that, 18 years of my life, to when I graduated and now working in New Mexico, completely different experience in the land of enchantment. I would say a lot of the things that made me successful in the role was really taking the time to connect with people and just be immersed in the culture. I think it's really easy when you're in a new place to sit back about and think about all the stuff that you're not having from where you were before. But I really wanted to experience the New Mexico culture and all the things that New Mexico had to offer. And I know one of the biggest things for me was Christmas. And when I say Christmas, I don't mean the holiday, though that was also great to celebrate there as well. It is the red and green chilies. And I may have talked about it on a podcast before, I think earlier on when I had Brian Castillo on, because I worked with him when he was at General Mills. We talked briefly about it. But if you're not familiar with it, Christmas is red and green chili. So red and green being really the primary colors of Christmas. When you go to different restaurants, New Mexican restaurants mainly, they ask you, do you want red or green or Christmas? And for me, it was a running joke the 2 years I lived there that it was Christmas every day. So getting different breakfast burritos, sopapillas, all the kinds of New Mexican dishes, because there is a difference between Mexican food and New Mexican food with the chilies, the Indian fry bread, so many great things. And so I got to get involved in New Mexican food. They also had a pretty good brewery scene there as well, so trying different things there. Lots of great food. I remember one of my favorite places to go was Nexus Brewery because of the food they had. The Nashville, they had Nashville hot chicken, which is funny because I live in Nashville now, and they had chicken and waffles. You could get it Nashville hot, and it was really good. I would say that Nashville hot chicken can get even hotter based on what I've had so far going to Hattie B's. Shout out to Hattie B's. And all of these experiences came to light because of people that I was able to connect with. So I already mentioned Brian Castillo. Patrick was a manager there, a good friend there as well. Patrick McNamara, shout out to him if he's listening to this. I know he's there at General Mills doing great things, impacting the people there. And also Teddy Perea, still get to talk to him. So those three people, I think, were kind of like the core group of people that I got to connect with while I was there in General Mills. And we had a group chat running for a long time. I might have to kick up the group chat again. But I say all that just talking about the different experiences I had there. I noticed I didn't really talk specifically about any work experience. The work was great as well. I got to get a lot of great experiences. But I think what you need to realize is relationships really matter when you're in a new situation or doing something that you haven't done before. So you're building right relationships, taking the time to get to know people, and really that is one way you can be incredible and excel in your new career. So with that, I already said congratulations to you, but I will say congratulations again. If you are about to embark on a new journey, a new career, a new city, take heart. Be intentional about connecting with people. One other thing I did while I was in Albuquerque is I got really involved in kickball and volleyball and different leagues outside of work. So not only was I connecting with people in work, but outside of work. I'm a person of faith, which I've mentioned. I got connected with different churches and got involved with them. So I would say shout out to Tyler Franks as he listened to that. Still good friends with him. Excited for his show to drop as well. I think I need to have you on the podcast, Tyler, if you're listening to this, because he was able to produce and star in a new show that I don't know when it's dropping, but I need to find out. Need to have him on here because he's also an incredible leader doing great things in his church and outside of the church. And yeah, all of that. I got off on a little bit of a tangent, just kind of like reminiscing of New Mexico and the people that I'm still connected with, even though I haven't been there since the end of 2018. Well, I haven't worked there since the end of 2018. I think the last time I was there was back in 2021, 2022, where I took a pit stop there. But yes, this episode was not just me to reminisce of one of my first jobs right out of college, where it was a good reminiscing. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe you didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it. So for once, I'll be selfish and say I liked it. Hopefully you got something out of it as well, something you can take. But I want to share specific things that you can do when you are starting your career or you're transitioning, really, let's say 4, maybe 5 things that you can do to make sure that you're successful. The first thing is set up regular meetings with your manager. So you might say, Paul, my manager already has meetings with me. What do you mean set up regular meetings? Yes, I understand. Some managers are more proactive than others as far as having one-on-one meetings or touch-based meetings just to understand where you're at. But if you're not having these meetings, you need to initiate them. And I know it sounds like a lot. You're a young professional, your first time working. Most likely they will have these meetings, but make sure it's on a frequency that makes sense for you. Don't be afraid to suggest something. Because I think a lot of times we can fall into one of two camps when, as young professionals. One, that we think we know everything and everyone needs to listen to us based on the fact of the stuff we went to school for is directly what we're doing. So it's like, hey, you're doing it wrong. We need to do it this way. The other way you can swing is thinking that I'm new. I don't know anything. I shouldn't suggest anything. I'm just going to sit here and wait for someone to tell me what I need to do. You don't want to be on either end of the spectrum. Kind of be in the middle as far as understanding, like, yes, you are new, but you still have value that you can add. You have perspective you can add. And really, the key things for this meetings with your manager, whether it's she or he, is to make sure that you understand what they expect from you. And it's also a chance to showcase what you're currently working on. So no matter what a lot of people want to believe, we live in a remote and hybrid environment. We live in a remote and hybrid environment. I think we've been trending there for a while. COVID-19 definitely accelerated that as far as more people work remote. I will say that I got to work remote before it was cool with all the traveling I was doing back in 2019 when I first joined Purina. But we live in a remote and hybrid environment. And so with that, what I've learned or I'm currently learning is that communication is especially important. I know sometimes we say no news is good news, but sometimes no news is bad news because people can forget about you. People, it's just human nature. What is in front of them is what's going to get the most attention. And what they see regularly or are able to have on an ongoing frequency is going to get more attention. So you want to be in the forefront of your manager's mind. Not to say that you're trying to brag or showcase, oh, look at me, look at Paul, look at all the stuff that Paul is doing and he's doing great things. No, this is mainly just to, one, I mentioned, make sure that you understand what their expectation is from you. The second thing is make sure that what you're doing is lined up with what they envisioned for the job, and they actually see you completing things, see you moving on. And this is a great chance to ask questions as well. I would say there's no such thing as a bad question, but oftentimes you can have really great questions. And that's something I'm really intentional about, listening and asking great questions, because there's a difference between a good question and a great question. And often the main difference is that a great question is more thoughtful. You can tell someone has done a little bit of legwork to try and figure it out on their own, and it's more clarifying questions, deeper questions than surface level questions. Not to say that you can't ask those surface level questions. Like I said, you are brand new in the role, whether you've been working for a few years or you're just got out of college, just got out of high school and you're working, you're brand new to this role. So there's a lot of things that you may not know, a lot of jargon or different ways of processes and ways of doing things that you're not going to be aware of. So be patient with yourself. But understanding that perception is reality, and those who are perceived as doing more work are honestly the ones that are going to usually get promoted. I know it's not fair. And I would also say life is not fair. We're working on these things as leaders, that leaders to be more intentional about interacting with their people, asking those questions, understand who's actually doing things and who's just, it's all smoke and mirrors. But really take the time to set up meetings with your manager and make sure you're on the same page. Next thing, and I would say these things, maybe there's not any particular order, but these are just some things you should think about doing or continue doing if you're already doing them. Good job if you're already doing them. Take the time to set up informal meetings to talk with people on your team. So I think we are a meeting culture in the United States, maybe globally, but definitely United States, lots of meetings and meetings for the meetings, all these things. But take the time to get to know your teammates as well. Don't assume that just because you've had several meetings with them that now you don't have to set up some time outside of that. And I would say it's fine to just put some time on the calendar. One thing I value about where I'm working right now in Mars is that's something that they highly encourage is setting up these connect meetings with people. Maybe the culture that you're in is not as conducive with that to set up meetings with people on the calendar. It maybe has to be more informal, but be intentional about finding opportunities to connect with your team outside of the regular day-to-day meetings. Even if it's like maybe a meeting is finished early or maybe is people are slow to get on. I know a lot of times as people are joining the meetings, whether you're leading the meeting or not, sometimes there's that kind of like awkward silence as we wait for everyone to join. Just start having conversation with people. I think those informal times where you can just talk with people about different things, what's going on. I know right now, as I'm recording this, one of the big things is this rap beef between Kendrick and Drake. And so that might not be the thing you want to talk to them about, depending on how old they are or if they even listen to rap music or not. Regardless of what it is, just be mindful of what things are going on. And the other thing is, one secret that I can share with you if you are trying to think about how do I even have a conversation with people more informally is put the burden of the topic on the other person. So ask them about what their interest is, what they like to do. And here's the thing, even if what they like to do is not something that you've done before, be genuinely curious about it. Are you wondering what's next? Has everything you tried failed? Or maybe you just feel stuck? Then coaching might be right for you. The coaching relationship is a relationship totally centered on you. If you're tired of running on the hamster wheel of life and want to start to see results, reach out to IncrediPaul for help. So what are you waiting for? Go to IncrediPaul.org/coaching, IncrediPaul.org/coaching, or at I am IncrediPaul on all my socials. Or you can click the link in the bio for your free coaching session. I want to make sure you become the most incredible version of yourself. Or maybe if it's something that you don't like to do, be honest and say, hey, this is what I know about this. I don't really like this. Can you share more about this? And I would say that even more so when people find common ground, I think people love to try and convince people about what they're interested in is something that you should be interested in as well. And you might learn something, not to say that you're going to love it or even like it, but you're definitely going to learn something. So definitely take the time to have those informal meetings and find out what people are passionate about. If they even have kids, I think it's funny sometimes that it hasn't happened the last couple companies I work with, but some like earlier on, or even like even before I was working professionally, I would talk to different people and just get to know different things about them. And I would just be talking to people. I was like, oh yeah, that person grew up here, or they went to this school, or they have these kids, they like to do this. And people will be like, wait, how did you know that? I was like, oh yeah, we had this conversation, it came up. And the thing is that people like to do work or do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so if they get to know you and like you, it's going to be a lot easier to do business. We are humans. We are social beings. We want to have people around us that actually care about us. So take the time to learn what people are passionate about. whether it's their kids, even what they're just looking forward to for the weekend. And maybe it's just time to relax and do nothing. But all of that can go a long way. So, first off, I said make sure you set up regular meetings with your manager. That might be weekly, it might be as low as monthly, but whatever makes the most sense based on what interaction you have with your manager, but make sure it's a regularly scheduled. You don't want to just these chance meetings with your manager. With other people, I think that's fine. Have these informal meetings, but with your manager, have regular scheduled meetings. Next thing that's key is your PDP, everyone's favorite topic. In all seriousness, PDP, or if you're not used to that term yet, is the personal development plan. So whether or not your company has this laid out, I've worked for companies that have been really specific about this, that this is your PDP, this is what you're going to get done. If you don't hit this, you don't get your bonus, and they're really strict about it. Others are just kind of like, this is like this general thing, kind of vague, and you're going to get your bonus as long as you show up and do your work, kind of thing. So some companies are more strict than others. So this might be something you're already doing. But regardless if you're already doing it, here's a reminder. Your PDP objectives, personal development plan objectives, need to be SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So specific. What are you doing? Don't make it vague. I know, so it'd be really tempting to just be like, oh, we're going to have a great year. We're going to get more. I'm in manufacturing. We're going to make more money, more tons out the door. Okay, but what are we specifically going to do to achieve that? Every business exists to make money. So that is not specific. Measurable. How will you actually measure that this is done? How do you know when it is done? Is there a dollar amount tied to this? I know, like for like these larger goals, or OGSM, so to speak, objectives, goals, strategies, and measures, they have specific dollar amounts or specific percentages that they're targeting. How's it measurable? Achievable. So this one, there are stretch goals. So this one is kind of this is the one that you probably have the most flexibility around. About achievable is this something that you can get done? And so I would say it's probably the hardest thing to do when you're first coming out of college or out of high school, to figure out what is achievable, because you don't really know. So I think this is something you have to lean on your manager on, or really just do some research and figure out, okay, what are some things I could be working on? What are the things coming on this year, to see if this is actually achievable or not? Relevant. Is this something that actually relates to your job, or something that you want to do? So some companies are a little bit better than others as far as wanting to get experience that leads to where you want to go. In your first year, most likely you are not going to be getting experience that is leading to elsewhere, because you just started working, you're new to the company. You need to be able to do the job that you're getting paid to do before you start doing other things. Not to say that you can't do that in addition, but you need to do well where you're at in order to be looked at to go somewhere else. And then time bound. When is this going to get done? And I think it can be really easy a lot of times for when we have these PDPs, like, oh, it's going to get done at the end of the year, Q4, week 52, week 53, whatever it is. And yes, you want to get it done by the end of the year. But if there are specific projects or things that you know are happening in the third quarter, or the second month, 6th month, 8th month, whatever it is, call that out. A lot of times, and I'm pretty sure everywhere I've worked has said this, is that these PDBs are living documents. They can change around, they can move based on business priority. So don't be afraid to put something in there and make the adjustment. I would say this is a conversation you should have with your manager, and see if she is aligned with it or not. But talk with your manager. The other thing is, so I talked about the PDP, talked about informally meeting with people on your team and even outside of your team, but definitely with your team, because these are the people that you interact with on a regular basis. You want to be close to them. And then setting up regular meetings with your manager is seek out someone to mentor you. I would say up until this point, you probably have had a mentor. In high school, maybe, maybe not, but definitely in college, I would say to get through college, especially in STEM, you needed a mentor. And if you did not, kudos to you for getting through without a mentor. You're definitely going to need one now as you go into your professional life. The mentorship does not have to be formal, though. I would say it does help to be formal in the sense that you meet with them on a regular basis. It does not have to be, and I will say shouldn't be as regular as you meet with your manager. Let's say, for example, if you meet with your manager once a month, maybe you meet with your mentor every other month. You meet with your manager every other week, maybe you meet your mentor once a month or even quarterly. I had the opportunity of getting mentored by someone that was pretty high up in the organization when I was working at Nestle Purina, and I met with him once a quarter, every 3 months, and sometimes we had to move things around or shift things. But the mentorship piece is more so for your long-term strategy or goals, trying to determine where you see yourself, where you see your career, what you're trying to do. And other times it's just to ask things that maybe you don't feel comfortable asking your manager, or maybe you don't know if your manager quite yet, and you just want someone that's got a third party that's not invested in you specifically, because it can be a little bit terrifying. I thought about that when I was first started working, like this person really like holds my career, my job in their hands. If I mess things up, they can say I'm not fit to work there anymore. So I understand that there's some things you may or may not want to talk to them about or feel comfortable talking about, and that's where mentorship is. But however you want to do it, whether it's coffee chats or just going on a walk, but just get to know them better. And what I would say is, yes, there's value in seeking mentorship from someone who's maybe at the director level or higher, but don't be afraid to seek out mentors that are just maybe one level above you, just a couple years ahead of you, or maybe even at your same level. Like that might not be as formal a mentorship, but someone that you can go to ask for advice on specific topics, on specific things that you're going to. You have no idea how much you're going to make someone's day just by asking them a question about something, just to show that you value them, you value their opinion. So the last thing I want to talk about is, I think, is the most important thing, because we live in a society, fast-paced society. We track all these different metrics on Forbes, 30 under 30, 40 under 40, accomplishing things when you're young and doing them quickly. But then I think about it as like, you accomplish these things and then what? What happens after that? You have a high, you feel great, you feel excited, and then it just kind of goes away until you do the next thing. So one thing I want to mention, and probably the most important thing that I've said so far, I'm still here. For those of you who are listening, I didn't cut off. Building some anticipation is, don't put too much pressure on yourself to do something amazing in the onboarding process, first 90 days, or really even the first year. Why? Because most likely it be hard pressed to do something life changing or career changing in the first 90 days, especially when you are new to your career. I would say if you've been working a couple of years, even maybe 3 years, you have some background, maybe you can notice something and be able to apply that to a new job that you're in. But even then, like, don't put that pressure on yourself. And a lot of, depending on the job or where you're going, like it might be a stretch role. that there's not really the expectation for you to do something like amazing. They want you to succeed. They want you to learn. They want you to develop, especially in the 90 days. Beyond that, I would say then you're more getting into your rhythm. You can do more stuff. But especially, like I said, young professionals, early career, entry level, first job out of college, don't put that pressure on yourself. It's just going to stress you out. Mentorship is key. Seeking out coaching is key. If you don't have either of those things, or maybe you want some help from me, just reach out to me. Go to IncrediPaul.org/coaching, or go to IncrediPaul.org, or at IM IncrediPaul on all my socials. Reach out to me. I would love to help you out however I can so that you can keep being incredible.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible.